Hello everybody and welcome back to Hound Clan. After the crazy battle that happened between Hound Clan and RootClan, it's finally time for Year 3. If you haven't watched the battle animatic yet, I suggest you do because Year 3 takes place after that battle and a lot of stuff happened in it, including several important deaths. This is your spoiler warning. Spoiler warning over. With that out of the way, once again, welcome back. We're going to jump right into it with StarClan, starting with the deaths from the war. Since the battle happened in the first moon of Year 3, it means none of them really did anything this year, so I will be showing their finished drawings instead of speed paints, along with anything important from their time in StarClan. Let's start with the first death from the battle, Burn It Shade. I decided that, despite her kill in the battle, she would go to StarClan because unlike Berlioz or Hushstar, she was genuinely trying to avenge the death of her daughter, and truly believed RootClan was to blame. Now that she's in StarClan, she knows better, and she feels terrible about what she's done. She's happy to be reunited with her daughters, but she feels worse knowing that she left Conquerskip all on their own. She's still ashamed to show her face to her living clanmates and hasn't delivered any messages yet, despite being a medicine cat. Instead, she spends most of her time with Twigleaf or Ploverwing and watching over Conquerskip with them. Swamp Paw, now Swamp Dusk, has settled into StarClan a little sadly. Although First Star did give him a post-mortem warrior name, he still spent a lot of time upset that he never got to become a warrior when he was alive, and he's kept trying to finish his training on his own. I think he might still be struggling to understand everything that happened around him. He wasn't really privy to any of it, especially with his father Berlioz, who's now in the Dark Forest. He's not really sure how to handle that and wishes he could talk to his brother again, but after the way he treated him, I think he's afraid to face him. Cosmos Fern is doing pretty well in StarClan. I think he was happy to reunite with all the people he's lost. When he's not chattering at the birds or lying in the sun, he's sharing prey with StarClan cats and watching over loved ones. He misses his kits terribly and wishes he could have been there when they became warriors. He hopes that they know he's watching over them in StarClan. Brown Rapid is pretty sad, but she's trying to stay upbeat. She misses her mate and kits terribly. She never even got to see them become warriors. She's also been worried about the Dark Forest cats, especially knowing her murderer is in there. Beyond that, she spent most of her time exploring StarClan and watching over her family proudly. As for the Dark Forest cats, Berlioz has been furious. Considering he could never even imagine himself being wrong when he was alive, he still doesn't understand why he's here. It made him even more vindictive. He's walked in his living son's dreams constantly and has been behaving erratically. He wants to unleash hurt on all the cats he thinks have wronged him, and seems to have absolutely no regrets for the cruelty he displayed in his life. Hushstar is all on his own. He did try to find Cliff Dazzle, but when he did, she attacked him and chased him off for being a failure, which he really wasn't. What she wanted was Hushstar's death, and that happened. But Hushstar still failed to survive his attack, and she doesn't need him anymore, so what's the use? As he escaped from her fury, with even more scars than before, he saw his brother, Olive Blaze, across the StarClan border, and felt all the fury towards him return in full force. He wants to hurt the cats still living, especially Brown Rapid's kin, and is working to discover Cliff Dazzle's methods to do so. As for the one and only Hushstar, he's also been behaving erratically. He's absolutely furious and wants revenge on the cats he thinks wronged him as well, especially First Star and anyone connected to her. He's haunted Willowthrift in his dreams more than once, and he's trying to whisper into the ears of Sapling Kit and Fickle Kit, and he's been on the hunt for victims. But I think this hunt of his has stagnated because not only are the living cats still telling his story a lot, considering it was less than a year ago, but he also has to avoid the cats hunting him, specifically Cliff Dazzle. I do have to say that I think while the newest additions to the Dark Forest know how to enter dreams, I don't think any of them know how to pull people into the Dark Forest beyond Cliff Dazzle, and I doubt she would share that information with anyone, so the living cats are pretty safe, for now. Unfortunately, that is not the last of the deaths we have, as we have a few cats who died during Year 3 as well. Peach is a cat that you guys haven't met. He was a loner that joined 2 moons into the year and immediately found his place in the clan. He was headstrong and got into a few arguments on patrol, but became great friends with a lot of cats and was an incredible fighter. He even got an apprentice in Riverpaw, and he even took on a gang of rogues on patrol and beat them back. Unfortunately, when winter came, things got a little tougher for him. Food was scarce and hunts were difficult, to the point Peach would feel gloomy afterwards, and made sure others got fresh kill, if there were only a few pieces left. They caught Yellowcough at the end of the year and succumbed to the illness only a moon later. I was absolutely heartbroken, and so was the clan, with so many of their statuses mourning Peach that same moon. He's sad to have left the clan so soon after joining, but he found a good friend in Brown Rapid in StarClan, and they've been watching over the clan together, proud of how far they've come. Vinegale was one of Fudge's 2 kits you saw last year, but unfortunately she didn't make it through. They were nervous for their apprentice ceremony and wanted to hunt right away to make sure the clan was fed after they were apprenticed to Hazelstorm. I think Hazelstorm found their awkwardness funny, because this was exactly how their last apprentice was too, because he did the same thing as last time and relaxed in the sun with Vinepaw to help her calm down and feel more comfortable with her training. It seemed to work well because Vinepaw was an excellent hunter, always catching food on patrols. She also loved to help reinforce the camp walls. But she was also a bit of a stinker, and liked to sneak out, and at one point snuck out with a bunch of other apprentices for a hunting session. Vinepaw also rescued an abandoned kit this year, and she wasn't the only one. We found a lot of kits this year. At her warrior ceremony, Vinegale was honored for her affection, and continued to be an amazing hunter. Unfortunately, she died in the last moon of the year when she was attacked by a dog before she could escape. I was really sad. She was such a sweetheart and really cared for the clan. I wish she could have stuck around for longer. Morepaw, now More Chill, is the last of the deaths this year, and one that I think probably hurt me the most. I have to admit I really liked her after last year. Her daring personality was so fun to see. She was heartbroken after her father's death and tried to spend more time with both her siblings to help them feel better, even letting Goldenpaw lecture her about the warrior code. Unfortunately, she died 2 months after the war when they stumbled upon a wolf pack that had been fiercely protective of their meal, and she was killed before they could escape. She was happy to see her father again, but she misses her siblings a lot. She appreciated Firststar gifting her a warrior name in StarClan, especially since she was only 1 moon away from becoming a warrior. She loves listening to the other StarClan cat stories, and watched over her siblings' warrior ceremonies with pride beside her dad. She still hasn't lost her daring personality either, as she has several times wandered over to the very edge of the Dark Forest, but I think after her 2-leg incident, she's smart enough to not go in. I really miss her, and so does her clan. She hasn't figured out how to visit any dreams yet, but I have a feeling that once she does, all the living cats are going to see a lot of More Chill. Until then, she'll just have to root for them from the stars. That is all the deaths from this year, some of which really hurt and others I'm still processing, but it's time for us to continue on to the living cats. Starting with the new Hound Clan leader, the loving Firststar and her mate Willowthrift. Both of them have been busy this year. Let's start with Firststar. She's had a long but exciting year as she settled into the role of leader. She promised right away to take care of the clan with all of her lives, and she was even purring happily at them as well, which I thought was really sweet. She also set some ground rules from the very beginning. She decided to give Hushstar supporters a second chance, but some are definitely on thinner ice than others. Because she's a loving cat, I like to imagine she spends a lot of time brainstorming names for warrior ceremonies, and always checks in with her clan to see how they're doing. She also took Rootpaw as her apprentice, which Daisy Spike very much approved of. She was worried about her mate a lot this year, and I think she was guiltily relieved when he retired because of how much loss she's already witnessed. She and Willowthrift also adopted a kit that she and Rootpaw found on patrol, little aphid kit, but more on her later. She was super proud of her apprentice when they became a warrior, and also helped rescue a cat from 2 Legs this year. Also, here's something kind of funny. Remember how I gave her the bandana just as a sign of the 5 months she was kidnapped by 2 Legs? Well, she disappeared for a few days in-game and came back with a purple collar, which I think is absolutely hilarious. The game has validated my design choice. And last but very much not least, she and Willowthrift are expecting kids! I'm so excited. I think that despite her age, Firststar is very pumped to be a mom again, and she knows she can rely on her mate to help her so she can balance her leadership duties with her duties as a parent, because they've already been doing that with Aphid Kit. Despite these happy moments, she's also very aware that Hushstar and the other Dark Forest cats have been stalking through the Dark Forest and whispering to the younger cats in the clan. She's heard a lot about it from a lot of different cats, including her daughter. She's cautiously optimistic to the future despite the tragedies that happened this year, and also very prepared to deal with any cats who try to hurt her clan again. Dark Forest or not, she's got 9 lives now and she's not afraid to kick some butt with them. As for Willowthrift, his year was a little rough at the beginning. Not only was Hushstar tormenting him in his nightmares for a few moons, but his apprentice, Morepaw, was viciously killed by wolves. Although they had a full patrol, there was still nothing they could do against a pack of wolves, and I think he was struggling with that guilt for a while. Despite the fact he knows how hopeless such a fight was, he still feels like he failed the cat he promised to mentor and protect, especially when both of Morepaw's siblings were also on that patrol. Neither of them blamed him, but I think it was still too much for him, especially after the war, because he retired to the Elder's Den the moon after that. Thankfully, he seemed to have relaxed much more since retiring. He started telling stories about his life in the clan, and has been getting to know his stepkids even more, and he's been able to spend plenty of time with his and First Star's adopted kit. The kits adore him, and he's been awakened more than once in the night to be asked about snails or slugs, which I think is extra funny because he sleeps in the leader's den with First Star, so that means she's also subjected to these questions. He was also visited in his dreams by First Star's old mate, Tadpole Stripe, and I think he was happy to learn that Tadpole Stripe approved of their relationship, and it furthered his desire to be there for his mate. Especially since he's going to be a dad again, he's excited for his new kits and plans to move to the nursery as a queen to help out, especially after the kits are weaned. Next up is our deputy, Conquerskip, and their adoptive daughter, Billowpaw. You may have noticed this in the battle animatic, but Conquerskip came out as non-binary at the beginning of the year, right before the battle. Of course, then the battle happened and everything went downhill from there. Not only did they lose their sister last year, but their mom was killed in the battle as well. They were terribly shaken by all the death that year, and it took them a long time to be able to remember how to be happy. I think this is why First Star decided to give them Haypaw to mentor. After all, she promised Twigleaf she would look after them. Conquerskip wasn't sure they would be able to be a good mentor, considering all they'd been dealing with, but Haypaw soaked up lessons and even saved Conquerskip's life from a rogue. They couldn't be prouder of them, especially when they became a warrior. They also found another thing to care about when they and Haypaw found an abandoned kit, yes, another one, out on patrol, a little three-legged kit that Conquerskip couldn't help but adopt, and named Billowkit. They absolutely adore their daughter, and were quick to make sure she wouldn't be forced to become an elder just because she was missing a paw, because that was something Hushstar would do. First Star was quick to reassure them, and I think this passion and love they displayed is why Conquerskip was chosen as the second deputy after the first. They were genuinely shocked, but have taken to the role well, and were determined to take care of their clan and learn all they can from First Star, just in case the day comes where they become leader. Even if that never happens, they'll be there for their clan, and especially for their daughter. Although, that doesn't stop them from leaving camp every now and then, usually when they think nobody will notice. I wonder what that could be about. As for Billowpaw, she's found her place in the clan and adores her family. When she was just a kid, she was very nervous and hid from most cats beside her parent. But that changed when Ploverwing visited her in her dreams and encouraged her to make friends and be brave. Seriously, when I saw Ploverwing visited her, I squealed. Her aunt encouraged her. That's so adorable! Especially because it's Ploverwing, and she's also kind of a bully, so I think it was probably more blunt than she meant it to be. After that, Billowpaw was much more open, including being one of the kits to be chased out of the medicine den or ask Willowthrift and First Star about snails. She's currently apprenticed to Goldenstripe and was the one to recruit the other apprentices on hunting adventures. She loves listening and telling stories on patrols, and even fought a fox and was barely hurt. And she's still super close with her parent. They share fresh kill together and joke and go on walks. She adores Conquerskip and wants to make them very proud. And considering her age, she's super close to becoming a warrior, and she's absolutely losing her mind with excitement. The weight is killing her. Flower Patch is next, and you may be surprised by the cat next to her. It's Doveprance. Yes, the exiled cats have come back. I made a rule that if one of them thought they spotted a cat from the clan, that meant they found the clan, and Beamfaw saw Goldenstripe and he brought them back. I was going to have Flower Patch and Doveprance wait a few months before they got back together because of the circumstances around her exile, but Doveprance actually asked her to be her mate right when she got back in the game, so I think Doveprance forgave her pretty quickly, which Flower Patch was relieved by, even if she feels she doesn't deserve it. Things are unfortunately still very tense between her and her son, who is definitely not as forgiving. She's trying her best, but he's made it pretty clear he can't forgive her and he wants space. I think this separation is part of why she and Doveprance decided to adopt another one of the abandoned kits this year. Yes, another one! I think Doveprance was the one who suggested this adoption because finding the kit abandoned reminded her of her own exile, and Flower Patch agreed. But that's not their only kit. In the very last moon of the year, Flower Patch gave birth to little Zinnia Kit. Elm Kit is definitely a little jealous, but they're doing their best to explain to her that they still have plenty of time for both their kits. As for Doveprance, she's settled back into her mediator role quite well, and she was sorely missed by her clan. I think it really hurt her to have to be introduced to some of the younger cats who never knew her before she was exiled, but she very quickly was able to gain admiration with her many stories. She's also been a very successful mediator with the other clans. Who would have guessed she would be good at her job when she wasn't being very much under extreme pressure, Hushstar? She also managed to toss a snake out of camp before it could bite anyone, and has been there to comfort cats who lost loved ones this year. Despite being a more successful mediator this year, she still seems to find the job quite draining, which I think might be because she can seem to help everyone else's problems except her own, specifically her relationship with her son. After she forgave Flower Patch, Beamfog didn't take it well. When Dove Prince tried to explain, he yelled at her and stormed off. He hasn't really spoken to either of them since. He hasn't even visited his new little siblings. Dove Prince doesn't really know how to fix this, especially when Beamfog doesn't want to try at all, so she has guiltily been focusing her attention anywhere else. Right now, all that focus is on her mate and their new children. She is very happy to take the time off to help Flower Patch take care of the kits. At her age, she only has a certain amount of energy, and she wants to dedicate as much of that to her family as possible. If only Beamfog could be a part of that. Weedpelt is a new addition to the clan, and a surprising one at that. They showed up offering their healing skills in exchange for shelter, but declined joining after talking with the patrol. I don't blame him. Beamfog can be a little intense, but the next moon they came back and decided to join after all in the events tab. I didn't know that could happen. He struggled to gather herbs at first while he got used to the territory, but they're good at organizing and getting omens from StarClan cats. I don't have much to say about him other than that because they're still pretty new to the clan, but I will say that I noticed he's harboring a pretty big crush for Furstar and Willow Thrift, even though he hasn't been in the clan for even a year, which I'm pretty interested by. Who knows? Maybe we have a poly relationship in the future. I'm absolutely down for giving Furstar her own reverse harem, except even better because they're all in love. Gimme poly cats! Furstar has 2 paws! Daisy Spike is next, and his personality changed, so our boy is not nervous anymore, but I was not expecting him to go from nervous to troublesome. That was a surprise. I like to imagine that after Hushstar and Berlioz' death, he was finally able to relax and learn how to have fun. He relaxed and sunned himself on some patrols, he was able to play in roughhouse with his kits. He still has trouble overworking himself to the point of even getting heat exhaustion, but his kids and clanmates are good at making sure he paces himself. Not only has he gotten to watch his kits grow into fine warriors, he also adopted another kid who was found abandoned. This is like the 3rd one this year that was found by Haypaw on patrol. I like to imagine that since Bright Kit had similar fur to them, that Haypaw begged to have a little sister, and Daisy Spike couldn't say no. He also has gotten closer with his little brother, and helped comfort him about his mixed feelings about their family. I'm very glad that Daisy Spike can finally be himself in the clan after 2 long years, and now he and his brother can actually be brothers now. It feels good to know he has family who he loves and relies on. But that reliance comes with worry, especially about someone close to Buckstride. But more on that later. I'm being mean. Tigersaur is the last of our medicine cats, and he's here with his mate, Katie. They are such a cute couple, especially when they're on patrol together. Katie is always interested to learn about StarClan and about herb gathering, and I adore that these two love each other so much, and they want to learn about each other and be together no matter what they're doing. He's also just feels so relieved that Hushstar is gone and that his mother is the leader. He may be a little biased because, you know, that's his mom, but he also has very vivid memories of watching Hushstar attack his mother just for standing up to him when he was a kid. As terrifying as that was, he believes that it shows that Furstar won't back down, and he appreciates that. He still misses Brown Rapid dearly and wishes she was there, and that she could have mentored his daughter. Speaking of his daughter, he still feels pretty shocked by the death of Puddle Honey. They weren't mates when she died, but he still had a kit with her and wishes that she had gotten a chance to spend time with her daughter even a little bit. Beyond that, he's had a pretty busy year. He gets a little annoyed with some of the warriors, including his brother Hazelstorm, who's a little reckless. Okay, very reckless. He can't complain too much, though, considering he fell into a snowbank while gathering herbs in a dangerous spot and got frostbite. He recovered a little over a moon later, but I think he definitely got a taste of his own medicine after that incident. As for Katie, he's been a busy kitty. First of all, he's super pumped his love has been reciprocated and spoils Tigersaur with affection. He loves to bring him prey and help organize herbs with him. I think Katie's love language is very much quality time. He also took over Golden Paw's apprenticeship after Hush Whisper's death, and proved to be a much better mentor. Considering Golden Paw also saved his life last year, Katie wanted to make sure they were the best teacher they could be. After Golden Stripe became a warrior, they gained another apprentice in Ficklepaw. I think it's pretty funny, because I imagine both of his apprentices have gone on lots of herb gathering patrols and have a lot of knowledge about herbs, but they also lost their minds on those patrols, because they were basically watching their mentor flirt relentlessly with Tigersaur, which for cats their age was super cringy. He also fought off some rogues this year and caught some fish. He loves fish, and so does Tigersaur after Brown Rapid taught him to swim, so I like to think he tries to catch fish for them whenever he can. He's also been wondering if he could be a good swimmer, but he's a little scared to learn. He also loves to tell kids stories until they fall asleep, and is super proud of both his apprentices now that they're warriors. He definitely dreams about having kits with Tigersaur one day, but he's a little nervous to bring that up. For now, he's happy to play with the kits in the clan and wait until they're both ready. Also, another thing I have to mention about these two is that apparently they're the most desirable cats in the clan. I swear to God, almost every single cat has a crush on them. Daisy Spike, Buckstride, Golden Stripe, Sporefrost are all in love with Tigersaur, and Plumeria, Sporefrost, and even Hazelstorm are in love with Katie. What the hell, Hazelstorm? That's your brother's husband! Some of them are just small crushes, but a lot of them have actually pretty high romance bars, especially one we'll talk about later. I find it absolutely hilarious that everyone is absolutely head over heels for these two cats, and those two cats are married to each other. Beautiful. Thank you, ClanGen. Ragged is a new addition to the clan this year. He was a loner who lived a very rough life, moving from place to place and dealing with threat after threat until finally he and his kits were chased out of their makeshift home by some rogue cats, and he was found injured on the territory with his two kits, Brindle Kit and Jumble Kit, and he joined the clan for his kit's sake. He was nervous at first and kept his kits with him in the medicine den. After everything he had been through, it was hard to trust people. But he quickly realized that Hushstar and Hound Clan only had good intentions, and that he and his kits might actually be able to have a place to live, which is all he wanted for them. Thanks to the medicine cats, he also discovered that Brindle Kit has raspy lungs and Jumble Kit is blind. I imagine he and some warriors go out with his kits to help them learn to pace themselves and allow Jumble Kit to get a feel for the territory. He would be lying if he said he wasn't worried about both of them, but he won't stop them from becoming warriors if that's what they want, and he'll train as hard as he can to be a warrior with them. After the rough life he's had, he'll do whatever it takes to make sure his kids have the best way they can ahead of them. Aldercall is a new addition to the clan, but also technically not. She actually joined the clan in year 2 at the end of the year, but I didn't mention her because she had head damage, which most cats seem to die from, and I had no idea if she would survive, but she did! Good job, Aldercall. You are not dead. Since she used to be a kitty pet, I decided to make her based on a mix of a pixie bob and a Japanese bobtail kitty, so she does have her full tail in the game, but screw that, bobtail! She got lost wandering in the woods, and when she came back, her 2 legs were gone. I think she survived by herself for a while, but then she found another 2-leg, and she thought they were her new owner, but they tried to drown her. Luckily, a clan patrol attacked the 2-leg and brought her to safety. She decided to join the clan after learning more about it. They're also a fast runner, and while she was recovering, she was itching to run, so I like to think she's the type of cat that just can't sit still for the life of her. She's always fidgeting. She was also a little unlucky because on her first patrol out, she was buried under a tangle of branches, but was thankfully freed. I like to imagine that she was terrified to be stuck in the medicine den again more than she was to actually be injured. She was given Tigersaur's daughter, Oakpaw, as an apprentice and was not prepared to deal with such a little punk. On their first patrol, they did bond as they found a porcupine and marveled over it together. They got along well after that, despite a few failed patrols. She also gets along well with and is nursing a crush on Ragged. I think she can tell how much he adores his kits and finds that very endearing. She's the first to volunteer to watch them when he needs to leave camp, and she really wants to get to know him more and perhaps be something more one day. Someone she definitely doesn't get along with is our next cat, someone you know, Hornet Dusk, who has continued to be just as unbearable this year as they were last year, but also somehow even worse. They spent the last 2 years being able to do basically nothing because they could tattle to Hushstar anytime they wanted, but now there's a leader who actually expects them to contribute and is making them mad, especially because this leader is also someone who knows very well how much of a suck-up they were and is not amused or fooled. They still think way too highly of themselves, and few cats humor that now, even cats that were with Hushstar. I think Hornet Dusk is only now realizing that other cats were not with Hushstar because they liked him, but simply for survival, and even cats who did like Hushstar, like Civet Stripe, no longer like him because of what happened in the war. But instead of taking this like an adult, Hornet Dusk has been a bit of a baby. They saved Aldercall, but then demanded thank yous and favors in return. Then, on their next patrol, they didn't bother to help hunt and expected everyone else to do things for them. They're still a terrible teacher and haven't gotten an apprentice this year because of it. All in all, they're still a bad kitty, and I'm not expecting change anytime soon. Plumeria is next, and honestly, she hasn't really done anything big this year. She's just kind of been going through the motions on patrol because, unlike Hornet Dusk, she's very aware of how the clan looks at her, and knows that if she wants to stick around, she has to contribute and show redeeming qualities. This doesn't mean she's keeping her head down, though. She's still a prankster. She's still her troublesome self, including catching rabbits on other clans' borders, but she hasn't been caught yet, so she keeps doing it. She also did gain some brownie points by helping the first deputy track down 2 badgers on the territory, which gave her her second apprentice, Sapling Paw. The kids love her too, including the apprentices who often ask her for advice on their assessments. This doesn't mean they're safe from her pranking though, as she was blaming them for her shenanigans several times. She makes it up to them though by letting them in on her future plans. She absolutely adores her little prank apprentices and hopes to teach many future generations her passion. She also chased off a rogue with Hushstar on patrol, which I think definitely helped her status. Despite this, she's feeling underappreciated and kinda lonely, especially after Sapling Paw became a warrior. She still thinks about having kits often and still hasn't found anyone to have them with. And as much as she distracts herself with her pranks and her friends, she still wants a family of her own one day, but doesn't really know how to make that happen. Zara is another new addition to the clan, a loner who is welcomed in by Hushstar on a patrol. Unfortunately, there isn't much to say about her, as she joined in the very last moons of the year, but she does seem to be very interested in StarClan, and also, all around, seems like a friendly cat. She's pretty excited to learn more about the clan and make new friends. There is a bad side to this kitty cat, though. Specifically that she has a gigantic crush on Hornet Dusk already. They were on the patrol that welcomed her to the clan, and that bar appeared so quick and I felt my heart sink. Girl, you just got here. But also, you could like any other cat. Why did it have to be them? Please, Zara, you're better than that. Please don't settle for that overgrown, stinky orange baby. Hatch Fox is up next, and he's had a relaxing year and doesn't really know what to do about that. He's spent his entire life so far pushing and pushing himself to be strong enough or brave enough, but now that Hushstar's gone, he doesn't really have to do that anymore, so he doesn't really know what to do. He's proud of his mother and relieved his clanmates are safe, but that doesn't help his gnawing feeling that something bad could happen at any moment. He's tried to relax, he really has, but he feels useless if he's not doing something, and because of how fast he had to grow up, he really struggles to connect with cats his age. The only one he's close to is Buckstride, who always tries to reach out and invite him on adventures, but they're occupied with their own situation right now. He wanted to get to know his nieces and nephews better, but he doesn't really know how to play with the kits. This stress has also started to appear in his patrols, as he tended to fail a lot or struggle to get along with other people on his patrol. His mother tried to help him focus on other things by giving him Bright Paw as an apprentice, but he still can't really relax and doesn't know how to connect with her, especially since they still struggled on patrols. Even when he saved a cat on a patrol with his mother, it still didn't feel like enough. Hatch Fox is just really lost right now, and even with family at his side, he doesn't feel like he's worthy of anything if he's not being useful. He just keeps overworking himself, and it finally came back to bite him as he ended up in the medicine den with White Cough. His brother Tigersaur lectured him, and Buckstride told him that he needs to take some time to relax and recover, and when he argued, Hushstar ordered him to. But he's having a hard time even with that. I feel really bad for him, and I hope that if he survives this illness, this might be the wake-up call he needs to stop pushing himself so hard and focus on something other than work. Hazelstorm is next, and he's had a bit of a rough year, especially at the beginning. He almost lost himself to grief and probably wouldn't have recovered if he didn't have his family and kits beside him. Telling stories about Brown Rapid to their children hurt at first, but it also helped remind him of the good times and how much he loved her. Hearing that his mother gained a life from his mate also comforted him, knowing that she's in StarClan and that one day they'll be reunited. I think he's also a pretty good storyteller because the kits always seem to follow him around. He was given Vinepaw as an apprentice, and that also helped cheer him up considering how Vinepaw was just as awkward as Sporefrost when they were first apprenticed, and seeing his apprentice become good friends with the son made him happy, though this was somewhat dampened by his worry about Ficklepaw and his brother Hatchfox. He's been really quiet and thoughtful when he's on his own, and tends to wander and think about StarClan a lot. At one point he disappeared for a few days, and that's how he got his new collar. It's purple like his mother's, which I think is pretty funny. Maybe it was the same two legs. He definitely had trouble getting along with the first deputy, and even refused to follow their orders. But he does a lot better with the second deputy, Conquer Skip. At one point he found a dying loner and couldn't save them, which really shook him up. I think it reminded him of the war and his mate's death. I think this is why when he and Vinepaw found an abandoned kit, again, who's abandoning all these kits? He decided to take her and name her Green Kit. But the end of this year was still pretty rough for him because he also witnessed Vinegale's death and was absolutely heartbroken. He wants to comfort Vinegale's sister, but he isn't sure how, especially when he feels immense guilt for running as well. He's trying to distract himself by helping out Greenpaw with her anxieties and talking to his stepdad Willowthrift, who knows that guilt well. Speaking of Greenpaw, she's here with her dad, and she's kind of a little nervous with everything. She loves her father, and her grandmother absolutely spoils her, and her big brother's always down to play with her, but she just feels a little pressure being adopted into the leader's family. She feels like there's a lot of expectations that she didn't ask for, and it's made her very anxious. Her mentor's compassion has definitely helped calm her somewhat, but she still dreads training or messing up. She's also the youngest apprentice and became one when all the older apprentices were already pretty close-knit, and soon she'll be the only apprentice in the Warrior's Den. It leaves her feeling very isolated and lonely, and she isn't sure how to explain these worries to the older cats, or even her mentor. She wants to tell her father, but he's mourning the sudden loss of his apprentice, and she doesn't want to make it worse. But she feels so lost. Greenpaw just wishes she had somebody to talk to. Beamfog is next alongside his mate Buckstride. Beamfog had a rough time adjusting to clan life after being brought back. Part of him didn't want to return, because he actually thrived as a loner. But he knew that Doveprance missed the clan dearly, and he worried that if anything happened to him, that Doveprance, at her age, wouldn't be able to hunt or defend herself from the dangerous forest. He was still angry with Flower Patch, and when Doveprance forgave her almost instantly, that anger extended to her too. He hasn't even visited his little siblings yet, because it means he has to face his mothers. His abrasive attitude also extends to the rest of his clanmates, especially those who supported Hushstar in any way. He can't stand Hornet Dusk, he thinks Plumeria is childish, he thinks Fudged never really earned her keep, and he thinks Civet Stripe's change of heart was too little too late. He does respect and listen to Furstar, because he knows she stood up to Hushstar constantly and never backed down, but that's about it. He's got an apprentice in Sorrelpaw, but he didn't turn out to be a very good teacher. He's not patient and is pretty harsh towards mistakes, which doesn't exactly encourage his apprentice. He hates being seen as helpless and always wants to do things his way, which is what led to him getting water in his lungs at the end of the year and coming down with a bad cough. Other cats his age have a hard time getting close to him because of the way he acts, and none of them bothered to try after he snaps at them more than once. And unfortunately, his mate is not exempt from this behavior of his. Speaking of his mate, next is Buckstride. Although he became a warrior in the very first moon of the year, I'm saying he didn't get his name until after the war, so he was Furstar's very first warrior ceremony. I think it fits well, considering he was one of the cats to rush to her rescue when Hushstar tried to attack her. He was honored for his valor, but he really couldn't celebrate as much as he wanted to. Despite their distance, he still cared about his brother and expected them to become warriors together. And even though his father was terrible, there was still a part of them that hoped that one day they could put aside their differences. Thankfully, he was able to find comfort in his older half-brother, Daisy Spike, who knew better than anyone what it felt like to be outcasted by Berlioz. They're a lot closer now and like to chat and share prey together, and Buckstride likes to help gather herbs when he can. He also got an apprentice of his own with Aphidpaw, and tried his best to be a good and gentle teacher. He still has trouble sitting still and relaxing inside camp. He itches to go out and explore the world, and sometimes disappears for days at a time. He always comes back with prey or rare herbs, but he knows some of the older clanmates are irritated by him disappearing often. Only a few other cats seem to understand, one of them being Beamfog. They really connected and ran off to explore places together, and Buckstride fell hard and fast. It was only after Beamfog accepted his confession that his more abrasive side truly began to show. Buckstride likes to spend time in the medicine den to visit his brother, or go visit the kits in the nursery, which irritates Beamfog. He tries to help his mate connect with other cats, but the cat just snaps at him. When Fudge gifted him with a new feather accessory, Beamfog said he should just get rid of it. He claims Buckstride is a bad mentor, and when he expressed his dreams of being deputy one day and helping out the clan like a true warrior, Beamfog said his dreams were stupid when he can't even teach a kid. Buckstride really does love his mate, but they truly have nothing in common. Even their reasons for exploring out of the territory are practically opposite. They've gotten into several arguments, even in camp, which embarrassed him badly. Buckstride feels completely exhausted, and he has no idea what he did wrong or what to do, especially when Beamfog refuses to talk to him or work on himself. He feels trapped all over again. Goldenstripe is next with his compassionate mate, Acacia. Goldenstripe became a warrior in the same moon as Sporefrost, and I honestly think he took Moorpaw's death even harder than him, because of what happened in the battle. He ran away then, and when his sister was in danger, he ran away again. He doesn't care that the wolves could have killed him, too. He just feels like he should have done something. He's been patrolling alone and wandering around, and on the rare occasion telling stories to apprentices, until one day he found a kitty pet named Acacia who wanted to join the clan. They clicked immediately, and her kind and optimistic attitude managed to pull him out of his brooding thoughts for the first time in a long time. They spent all of their time together and quickly became mates. It made him more excited to mentor his apprentice, Billowpaw, and together the three of them chased off dogs and located badgers on the territory. Unlike how Goldenstripe was with Katie and Tigersaur, I think Billowpaw thought her mentor and his mate were adorable. Acacia also fit into the clan quite well. She is good friends with a lot of cats her age and isn't ashamed of her kitty pet background, even telling funny stories about her time as one. At the very end of the year, she also gained her first apprentice in Greenpaw. She's super excited to be a mentor and hopes she can pass on all she learned and maybe even learn some things herself. Sporefrost is next, and this year has honestly been kinda tough. He became a warrior right after the battle and couldn't even feel happy about it, because not only was his father not there, but his sister died that same month. He felt selfish for even thinking about celebrating, and felt he didn't deserve to be called a warrior when he couldn't even save his sister. What kind of warrior was he if he couldn't keep anyone safe? He spent a lot of time thinking about running away and looking out beyond the horizon. The world felt smaller without his family. It took a little bit, but he was able to find his groove again with the help of his friend Buckstride after they took down a fox and it got an entire deer for the clan. They also got an apprentice in Cricket Paw, the child of their mentor, which made him very happy to be trusted with such a task. They've done their best to teach their apprentice and really bonded with the young cat. However, he was sick with white cough for a little bit, and then after that, he started spending a lot more time in the medicine den, and even offered to escort the medicine cat whenever he could, which I realized was because he has an absolutely massive crush on Tigersaur and Katie. Like, specifically, Tigersaur's bar is already in the green. Oh boy. Listen, Sporefrost, while I would love some more polycats, if you're going after Tigersaur and Katie, you have a lot of competition. But I believe in you. You could do it. River Grove is next, and unfortunately, they have had a pretty rough end of the year. The beginning of the year was great for them. They were a wild kit. Unlike Hey Kit, who talked about bugs, or Root Kit, who liked to talk to bugs, River Kit liked eating bugs. She was apprenticed to Peach and absolutely adored her mentor. What made her trainings even better was that she and her sister were often on the same patrols and got to spend a lot of time together, which did make them very hyper and crazy on patrols. She was also the one of the cats to join the secret apprentice hunting session alongside her sister, and was very proud of herself. She also slipped on a rock but managed to recover so well, other cats thought she was just being athletic. She's definitely one of the cats who Plumeria recruited for her pranks the most, and was honored to learn from such an expert. At her warrior ceremony, she was honored for her dedication. She and her sister even caught gophers together and were so happy to become warriors. But then, tragedy struck, and River Grove could do nothing but watch as her sister was killed by a dog. She was too terrified and could only run, and then as was one of the cats who brought Vinegale back to camp to be buried. She's really lost right now. She and her sister were so close, and she had so many plans and adventures now that they were warriors, and now it's all over. She keeps thinking about what she could have done differently. Could she have fought off the dog if she didn't run? Why did she run when her sister was in danger? She can't even bring herself to seek comfort in her mother. How could she even face Fudge when, in her mind, her sister's dead because of her? Oakleaf is Tigersaur's single kit who is all grown up, and honestly, she's a brat. She was apprenticed to Aldercall, and they seem to get along pretty well. Oakpaw was absolutely in awe of the porcupine they found. Maybe that's why she decided to have such a spiky personality. She was always practicing her battle moves and snappy with anyone other than her mentor and her father. Katie was very much the in-between, as she isn't sure if Katie is good enough for her dad. Her mean girl attitude definitely hasn't made her many friends, as Vinepaw never liked her and never wanted to patrol with her, and the other apprentices did not invite her out on the secret hunting trip. The only cat she gets along with is Sapling Crest, who is just as much of a jerk as her. Despite her attitude, she excelled as a warrior, especially hunting and fighting, and was made a warrior early at 10 moons and honored for her candor, which, yeah, I guess that's the nicest way for Firststar to say that her granddaughter's a jerk. Despite her attitude, she is a little shaken at the end of the year after witnessing Vinegale's death. They weren't friends, but they were apprentices together. They grew up together. It was a bit of a wake-up call to witness someone she knew all of her life die so suddenly. She's toned down her harshness, but she doesn't know what else to do as she watches her Uncle Hazelstorm and River Grove mourn the loss of Vinegale. I think instead of feeling guilty for not helping, she feels conflicted. Like, she feels like she should feel more sad, but she just doesn't, and she doesn't know what to do about that. Cricket Stalk is next, and he's been doing pretty good, all things considered. He was so young when he lost his mother that it's hard for him to remember her, but his daring personality meant that he wasn't afraid to ask the mourning Hazelstorm to hear more about her. He also told his father about Hush Whisper appearing in his dreams, and Hazelstorm was quick to tell him not to trust anything that cat might tell him. He was apprenticed to Sporefrost and was honestly dreading having to do work. I think this may be where his sneakiness comes from, as he was always trying to get out of apprentice duties. His sneakiness immediately put him on Plumeria's radar, who made him another apprentice in her art of pranking. He even got Sporefrost with the good old Thorn in the Nest prank. His apprentice duties got a little more exciting after a badger stakeout, which made him even more excited about being as sneaky as possible. He loved the idea of being so sneaky he could creep up on anything, even a badger. He was also one of the cats to sneak out on the apprentice hunting session, and was the one to show the others how to get out of camp, but he made sure to swear them to secrecy afterwards. Not that they could stop him if he snitched, he knows several ways to sneak out. I think Firststar was very aware of how proud he is about his skills, because at his warrior ceremony he was honored for his stealth. He is a good kit sitter, and I think very excited for his grandma, Firststar, to have her kits, and for Flower Patch's kits to be a bit older so he can teach them the art of mischief. He also seems to have a connection to StarClan, as he had a vision at the end of the year, but he isn't sure what it could mean or who was speaking to him. He hopes he can learn more about it and maybe see his mom in these visions. Picklefeather is right after her brother, and her year has been a little difficult. Her quick wit meant that she was right beside her brother, asking for stories about their mom. She's been lonely since she was a kid, as she had trouble connecting with kids her age. She didn't understand their games or how they were feeling, and her brother was always running off and getting into trouble. She also has difficulty identifying and expressing emotions properly, which led to the kids her age being uncertain of how to interact with her. Cricket Kit, Katie, and Hazelstorm are some of the only cats who see past this, and they're always there for her, but most of the clan struggle to interact with her. She'd sometimes talk to bugs to feel better, until Sapling Kit caught her and made fun of her for it. She also kept having dreams of Hushstar whispering into her ear, but was smart enough to realize she shouldn't listen to him after the stories she heard from older clanmates and her father. Despite this knowledge, she still dreams of the Dark Forest constantly. She was apprenticed to Katie and very quickly found her talent in hunting. She could very quickly predict their movements, and was able to use her short stature to dive into burrows and catch rabbits, even on her very first patrol, which her dad was super proud of. She definitely prefers to be outside of camp and in the open by herself, and actually gets pretty anxious when around a lot of other cats, especially in the apprentices and warriors' den. She was quick to volunteer to guard the camp at night, that way she gets the den mostly to herself when she sleeps in the morning. Because of this, and her cleverness, she absolutely knows her brother sneaks out all the time, but she doesn't snitch. She just tells him to be careful. She also fought off a gang of rogues along with her mentor Peach and her dad. At her warrior ceremony, she was honored for her independence, and while she very much values that, I think it also does lead to her lonesome feeling. She's dealing with all of this, including her Dark Forest dreams, all on her own. She wants to make friends, but she doesn't really know how to connect with people as easily as her brother. Her trouble with emotions also makes her anxious, as she doesn't know how to discern what people think of her or who to approach. And even if she did know, she has no idea how to reach out to those around her and feels like she's lost her chance to connect with anyone at all. Aphid Glint is Furstar and Willowthrift's adopted daughter, who was found abandoned on patrol. Yes, another one! Like, who's doing this? We had a freaking kitten boom last year, and then this time there were people just dumping kittens everywhere. She was already 5 moons when she was found and was insistent that her parents would come back for her, but they never did. She was taken into the Furstar family and apprenticed to Buckstride, but she immediately got a sprain thanks to a 2-leg trap. While in the medicine den, she began to have strange dreams about a red forest and dark eyes watching her. She brought this up to her adoptive parents and the medicine cat, and Willowthrift and Flower Patch immediately recognized it as the Dark Forest. They told her about the inhabitants and what they'd done, and warned her not to trust any cat who speaks to her there. She believes them, but she can't help her curiosity, especially when she tends to wander in there by mistake in her dreams. She argued with her mentor at first and was a bit angsty because she felt behind the other cats at her age due to her injury, but they quickly found a rhythm in hunting rabbits. She also became really close with her mentor, and they liked telling ghost stories on patrol sometime, although Buckstride's stories were sometimes too scary and kept her up at night. She's heard his story about Russetpaw too, her older sister, who saved his life and inspired him to be a true warrior, and she has become pretty loyal to the warrior code. However, her loyalty is far more intense than Buckstride's, and I think part of that is because of her Dark Forest dreams. She worries that these dreams may be prophetic in some way, or is a sign that she's a bad cat, and she wants to prove she's just as loyal as her mentor or any other clan cat. It was to the point that when she heard about the secret hunting session her cousin Cricketpaw was planning, she threatened to tattle on them. At her warrior ceremony, Aphid Glint was honored for her perspective. She's still a new warrior, but has big plans, and wants to prove just how brave and loyal she is to her clan and the code. Unfortunately, this conviction is currently distracted not just by her Dark Forest dreams, but also her lingering crush on RootClan. More than anything, she's very conflicted at watching her beloved mentor struggle with his relationship. She never liked Beamfog. He always snapped at her for simple mistakes, and it made her feel so ashamed, and now Buckstride seems to be wearing that sad expression all the time. She wishes she could knock some sense into him or claw Beamfog's pelt, but she can't really do either without hurting her mentor. Instead, she tries her best to get him out of camp and on patrols away from Beamfog, and hopes one day her mentor will realize he deserves way better than that foxheart. The loyal Hayflood is next. He was one of the kits who also invaded the leader's den to ask questions about snails, and likes to recite facts about beetles in the middle of camp. He was apprenticed to Conquer Skip and was immediately acting angsty. I think part of this was because on his first patrol, he saw Ficklepaw catch a rabbit, and Haypaw wanted to be that cool and impress his mentor. But his angstiness disappeared when he and Conquer Skip found Bright Kit and his father adopted her. He never expected to be a big brother and quickly became the most obedient apprentice ever, following them out of camp whenever asked. He caught a rabbit and even saved his mentor from an enemy cat. He also found and rescued Billowkit on patrol as well and was super pumped when Conquer Skip adopted her. He wanted to become the best big brother he possibly could be, and it led him to become a loyal warrior who was honored for his reliability at his ceremony. Since then, he's become an expert rabbit hunter. Maybe a little too much because he almost crossed clan borders to get one and would have been spotted if his brother hadn't grabbed him. He hasn't shown signs of any crushes yet, but I'm on the lookout. For now, he just seems to want to be a loyal warrior and a great big brother. He wouldn't mind an apprentice one day either. RootClan is next and infinitely more chill than his brother. He always has been a rather calm cat, especially when Hushstar was gone and his dad was able to relax as well. He was an adorable little kit who climbed on anything he could, and unlike his brother, he preferred talking to bugs rather than talking about them. He was apprenticed to Hushstar, and initially he struggled to open up to her. I think the pressure of being the leader's apprentice kind of scared him and made him think he had to be super professional at all times, but Hushstar's loving personality rubbed off on him pretty quick, especially when they found an abandoned kit and rushed it back to camp together. He was super happy when Hushstar adopted the kit, and was even more happy when Haypaw found them a new little sister. He's also an easy cat to talk to and likes helping the other apprentices or kits with any issues they had, which made him and Sorrelpaw pretty close friends. At their warrior ceremony, they were honored for their emotional maturity, and were very excited to help the clan even more. He's also super relieved he managed to prevent his brother from causing an incident with RootClan over a rabbit. He's grown into a calm and relatively quiet cat who's known by his clanmates for being very kind and also very observant about the world around him. And while he is hoping for an apprentice one day, he's a little more focused on romance, specifically his major crush on Conquer Skip. I think he really admires them for their determination and strength, especially after all they've been through. But he is aware that they have lived a life drastically different than his, and that RootClan himself is still pretty young. Conquer Skip lived through the end of Hushstar's reign, while RootClan grew up in a relatively peaceful time. Conquer Skip is also deputy, and while RootClan is already a promising warrior, that feels negligible compared to the second-in-command. I think this is what is holding him back from saying anything. That, and it's also me. I would prefer for RootClan and Conquer Skip to both be over 20 moons before anything romantic happens. But for now, I think RootClan is just admiring him from afar, and hoping one day his feelings might be returned in the future. But if that never happens, he'll understand. Brightpaw is here with her brothers, and I think she's just so cute. She was apprenticed to Hatchfox, and I think his strictness both helped and hindered her, because her insecure personality meant his straightforwardness was helpful because he didn't sugarcoat things, but it also makes her stressed out trying to impress him. Luckily, after a particularly rough first hunting trip, she found her stride when Billowpaw invited her to sneak out and hunt with the other apprentices. With all the prey they caught, Hatchfox only lectured her a little bit. She still asks the older warriors for advice a lot, but she's got a lot more confidence in herself. She's pretty close with Billowpaw since they're around the same age, and Billowpaw's adventurous personality encourages her a lot. She also gets help from her dad, who knows all too well how it feels to be stressed out and anxious about things. I think she's worried for her warrior ceremony, but also optimistic. She's also been crushing on a lot of cats, but she's still young, and because of her insecure personality, she has trouble seeing herself as someone of value. I think she needs time to grow and become more confident in herself before she settles down. Here's for hoping for a future full of confidence. Sorrelback was a bit of an anxious kit. He got overwhelmed easily and had bad nightmares. Civetstripe was always there to comfort him, but Sapling Kit was very, very blunt in telling her brother that he needed to grow up someday and stop being a baby. Luckily, he also has great friends in Cricketstock, who was always down to sneak around and play, or RootClan, who he can just sit and talk to without being nervous. He was apprenticed to Beamfog, and unfortunately that only made his nerves even worse. Beamfog was not a good teacher and failed to explain his training techniques properly, only to snap when Sorrelpaw didn't understand. He'd get yelled at when he failed to catch prey, and it left him feeling even more stressed than before. Even on patrols where they did catch food, if Sorrelpaw wasn't the one to catch it, then Beamfog disapproved. I think he definitely was invited out on the secret apprentice hunting patrol, but was terrified of what Beamfog would do to punish him if they were caught, and backed out. They eventually managed to become a warrior through painful lessons and watching other mentors teach their apprentices, and were honored for their observance. He's been able to relax a little bit since then, but after failing another hunt, he started feeling the stress again. Beamfog was already hard to please. What if the rest of the clan hates him too? He feels under a lot of pressure and doesn't really know how to free himself of it, and while he and Aphidglin aren't particularly close, he definitely shares her worries for Buckstride as he knows exactly how it feels with Beamfog's harsh temper and unfair expectations. Sapling Crest has been a bit of a bully ever since she was a kid, and was especially insufferable when her dad was deputy. She used to brag and make fun of the other kits, especially Fickle Kit, who she saw as weird. The only cat who was truly safe from her bullying was her brother, kind of, and Oak Kit, because when she made fun of Oak Kit beat her up. Sapling likes when people stand up to her and challenge her, and they became fast friends after that. Sapling Paw was apprenticed to Plumeria and was very quickly another prank apprentice, but her pranks tended to be a lot more mean-spirited or embarrassing than the other apprentices. She wanted to show off to her mentor and show the other apprentices how much better she was, and trained hard. Although she did get stuck in a tree when they were practicing climbing, luckily for her, only Plumeria was there to see that. She and her mentor also chased out a rogue on the same patrol as Hushstar, who complimented her bravery, and oh man did she brag about that for ages. She did not get invited on any secret hunting patrols, and in retaliation went off on her own, but ate the prey she caught and got in a lot of trouble. She became a warrior at the same time as her brother and was honored for her pragmatism and feels pretty content right now. She doesn't have any ambitions for leader as long as she gets the respect she deserves. She's a little annoyed with her brother right now, though, as she still feels like he's being childish with his behavior. Surely Beamfog couldn't have been that bad. Maybe he should just grow up and stop acting like a baby. Now we're moving on to the Elder's Den, where we have Partridge Snap, Civet Stripe, and Fudge. Partridge Snap respected Dash Nudge's decision to stay in Rebel Clan, but decided to leave and spend his last moons in his birth clan now that he was sure it's safe, and he was heartbroken by the amount of death. He feels like the far too many cats died young, and tried to keep it off his mind the best he could by telling stories to the younger cats, but the death this year has him feeling restless. He's trying his best to comfort cats, especially Fudge, and quell his own worries. After everything that's happened to him, he fears another tragedy happening far too soon. As for Fudge, she's absolutely a mess this year. She decided to retire in the same moon as Civet Stripe due to her age, and was proud to watch her daughters grow into such amazing warriors, only to be heartbroken at the loss of Vinegale. She doesn't blame Rivergrove or Hazelstorm. She knows how terrible a dog attack can be from living her life as a loner for so long, but that doesn't get rid of the grief that she constantly feels because of it. She doesn't know if she will ever be able to recover from this, and what to do if she loses her last daughter as well. She always thought she would be the first to go, not her children. Where does life go without Vinegale? All she's able to do right now is nibble on food and smell the remnants of Vinegale from the bits of her nest that she took, but even that scent is slowly fading away. Civet Stripe is the last of our elders, and as I mentioned above, he was the first deputy of the year. Both he and Hushstar were aware that this wasn't because he would be the next leader, but this was a way to show that bridges could be mended, and also give Civet Stripe the second chance he desperately wanted. If he could be half the warrior Cosmos Fern was, that would be enough. He quickly made sure the other Hushstar supporters knew what side he was on, especially Hornet Dusk, and he took his duties very seriously. He did his best to keep relations between clans good, and he and Hushstar kept careful track of the badgers spotted all over the clan territory. I like to imagine that, considering all the kits around this year, he also patrolled around every now and then to make sure that no more were dropped in the forest. However, he began to slow down, and at one point got badly attacked by a coyote. While he did recover from that, right after he slipped and dislocated his joint on a rock, and took that as his sign that it was time to retire. He didn't mind, and approved of Conquer Skip as his replacement. They were a cat he could definitely see becoming leader one day. Now he's able to spend time with his kits more, and has become close with the other elders, especially Fudge. He's extremely worried about Sorrelback, but his son seems hesitant to talk to him about what's really wrong, and right now he's a little distracted and spends most of his time with Fudge, desperately trying to convince the old cat to eat and drink water when Rivergrove isn't there to do it in his stead. He may not be deputy anymore, but he was, and he wants to take care of the other cats the best he can, even in retirement. I'm super proud of how much he's grown since the first year, and even if he's having a rough time right now, I'm very happy to see him taking care of his clanmates. That is the last of the cats this year, but there's still something I promised at the end of the battle video, and that is an update on the other clans. Rebel Clan's video is next, so we'll leave them out of this, but we'll talk about both RootClan and MistClan now. Gingerstar is the new leader of RootClan and has adapted well to the position despite his young age. He's currently very unhappy with MistClan, as in his mind, even if both clans were small, they would have had a better chance together. Now that their clan has lost so many, and is still dealing with lost and stolen clan members, right now, he has a pretty good relationship with Hound Clan and a very good relationship with Rebel Clan, and he and his warriors still feel scorned and betrayed by MistClan after what he witnessed in the war. Gingerstar doesn't think he can forgive the clan who was supposed to be their closest ally from abandoning them when they needed them the most. His deputy is the compassionate Wigglestrike, who is only a few moons older than him. They grew up together and often went on patrols and adventures when they were younger. After killing Cosmosfern, I think they were haunted by this action after learning Cosmosfern was not one of Hushstar's supporters. They can still feel the blood on their paws and never want to face a situation like that again. They lean into their compassion a lot more. They also challenge Gingerstar a lot, especially about what he sees as more rash actions, because he knows how fierce the young leader is, and how that may cloud his judgment. Gingerstar appreciates this greatly, because he knows Wigglestrike understands the consequences of thinking before acting too well. As for the medicine cats, we technically only have one. Juniper Petal was an elder, but her son Weedpaw was killed in the ambush, and her other child, Poppystripe, was haunted by the events of the war. She couldn't sit by when the clan was left with a single medicine cat. She can't complete his training for him, only StarClan can do that, but she's able to organize herbs and tend to smaller wounds so he can focus on his patients. As for Bowmeadow, he feels a lot of pressure being the only true medicine cat at such a young age, especially with their brother as the leader. StarClan finished his training and granted him his name, but by the time he gained it, a terrible sickness spread through the camp. Several cats died to red cough, and all he could really do was ease their pain until they died. He also has a mate, which he revealed to the clan with Gingerstar's permission, who decided the rule had to go, especially with as small as the clan is. He feels nice not having to keep it a secret, but now his clanmates are whispering about him and his mate, thinking the red cough might have been sign of StarClan's disapproval. He just wishes he could go back to having fun and playing pranks, but those days are long gone. As for MistClan, we have Flowerstar as the new leader. You may be wondering, what happened to Snailstar? Well, he was kidnapped by Two Legs in the second moon of the year, and as far as his clan knows, he vanished. She struggled since the beginning as her rise to power was chaotic and sudden, and she immediately lost a life when she died in childbirth, and things haven't really gotten better since then. Right now, her current goal is to try and mend relations with RootClan, but it's slow going. Her clan understands why Snailstar chose not to join the battle, but now RootClan is far more terse with them, and her warriors are hurt and blame HoundClan for rising tensions. She just wants to stop any more battles from happening and stop more tragedy, especially since she only has 3 lives left due to Snailstar vanishing without being able to give his lives back to StarClan, and she already lost one of them, so she's down to 2. Their deputy, Sweet Wisp, was surprised at their sudden promotion, but took it in stride. She was mentored by Flowerstar's mate and honored for her skill, which I think is one of the reasons she was chosen. Another reason was her age, because Flowerstar knows she has far few lives than a leader should, and she wants a plan in place in case she suddenly dies or vanishes. A young cat, especially one as skilled as Sweet Wisp, would be able to take care of the clan even if they don't get the full 9 lives. Sweet Wisp was one of the first cats to learn the truth of Flowerstar's lives, and is also one of the few who tries to see the other clan's perspectives. She feels like the entire situation is terrible, and would have been terrible no matter what, and they just have to accept that and go from there, and is going to try her best to help the leader build the clan back up, and get her clanmates to try and calm their pelts before they start something else. Considering her shameless personality, let's just say she already called out many cats about their attitudes many times. As for their medicine cats, unfortunately Sharpshade died this year after being washed out in the sea, so we lost one, but there's also a new apprentice who I'll talk about with their mentor. Buzzard is still the head medicine cat, but is definitely not in a good headspace as last year. Not only did they lose their dear friends, Snailstar and Sharpshade, but also a lot of their children. They loved all of their kits, but they've also watched a lot of them be taken from them this year. One was killed by a dog, another drowned out at sea, and another suffocated when caved in under sand. Now about half of his children are dead, and 3 of those died in 1 year. It's really taken a toll on him and shaken his confidence, which is why I think he decided to let Poolback mentor the new apprentice, as he's thinking of retiring once both cats are fully trained. He'll step into the den if they need him without question, but after all the tragedy this year, he just wants to spend more times with his mate, kits, and grandkits while he still has the chance. As for Poolback, he's been struggling too. He discovered his sister, one of the missing cats, passed away when he went to a half-moon meeting and saw them in StarClan, and delivering that news to his family was awful. He did find love and adopted kits, taking after his mentor Buzzard and adopting 6, but one of his kits is badly injured, and it's only thanks to Buzzard and his apprentice that he doesn't panic over it, especially with all the other badly injured cats right now, including one with a broken back. He's still feeling a lot of pressure and fears for the day Buzzard retires. The job of head medicine cat is something he hoped he wouldn't have to face for a long time still. His apprentice, Midgepaw, is Flowerstar's daughter, and dreamed of becoming a healer since she was a kid. And while she loves gathering herbs and talking to StarClan, she's definitely feeling the pressure right now with all the injuries and the fact she can tell both the other healers are struggling, no matter how hard they try to hide it. She understands more than they think, especially the clan hostilities. She hates how angry the clan is right now, and wishes the clans could just get along. Illness and accidents are one thing, but war is another. She's doing her best to help them by taking up any boring tasks like gathering cobweb or moss, so they can focus on the hurt cats. It helps keep her mind busy, which she really needs, because anytime she stops to think, she starts to worry even more, especially about how her mother only has 2 lives despite just becoming leader, and how helpless they could be if another war were to start. All she can do is hope it never comes to that again for a long, long time. As you can see, the battle may be over, but there is still plenty of drama going on between these cats. Kidnappings, death, way too many tensions. Will they boil over? Only time will tell. But what about RootClan? How are things going up in the mountain? Well, you'll have to wait until the next video to find out. As always, let me know which cats are your favorites. Do you have any name ideas for our kits and apprentices? I'd love to hear them, especially because for a few specific cats, ClanGen did them dirty. So any ideas are very much welcome. But with all of that, I must leave and start preparing for year 3 of RootClan, so I will see all of you then for more kitty cats. Unless you watch my other videos, in which case I'll probably see you tomorrow. Either way, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Remember to take care of yourself, get some ice for sapling crest burns, and have a good day.